Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for watching my first video. You showed a lot of love to it. Really appreciate it. So I was thinking about what my next video should be. Should I do a House of Dragon video? But then I thought that requires too much B-roll. Then I thought, should I do a wrap-up video? Should I do a TBR video? But the thing is, I don't read enough in a month to justify those. So then I thought, hey, let's do quarterly or seasonal TBR videos. But the quarter and the season doesn't end until September end. So then I thought, fuck the naming, let's just call it 3 months at a time TBR. So I'm gonna talk about all the books that I'm planning to read in the months of September, October, and November. Don't be too surprised if I end up ditching these plans. I'm a big mood reader, so if I get hyped enough for something, I'll add that to the TBR plans and I'll throw something off if I don't feel like reading something at any moment, so don't be surprised. So the first book I plan to read is Babel by R.F. Kuang. The Poppy War by her was one of my most impactful series I read in 2020. It left a deep impression on me. The things it talked about agency, about imperialism, about what it means to be free, all the things that it talked about, it really had a big impact on me. I still think about chapter 21 of the first book. And so because of that, R.F. Kuang has won my trust. And on top of that, the next book, the Babel that's coming out, I'm incredibly interested in the premise of this book. For me, as a non-native English speaker in a English-speaking country, I can see how language acts as a barrier between forming relationships with people. I can see how accents define how people judge you. So I have a lot of interest in this idea, and seems like R.F. Kuang is going full on heads deep into exploring this idea. So I am really interested in this, and I'm hoping to read it as soon as I get my hands on the book. On top of that, another reason for that is of reading it so soon is I am going to Bath for a signing for her book, and I'm hoping to meet her, and I'm hoping to get a signed copy from her at that event. So that's also leading to why I am reading it so soon. The next book that I want to read is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. I have wanted to read this book ever since I first saw it back in 2020, I think. It was not big in the booktube scene back then. Nobody was reading it, but I loved the premise. I loved the things that I was hearing about it, so I wanted to read it. Seeing it blow up on YouTube now, it makes me really happy. I'm more hyped to read it, but also makes me a bit sad because I have lost my chance to be a hipster. So when my friend Jake said that he's organizing a read-along for the series, I jumped in immediately and said yes. And I have read Ken Liu's other books as well. I have read The Paper Menagerie from his short story collection. I've read a bunch of other short stories from his as well. So I've tested out his writing style and I really like it. The only negative here is that the audio is narrated by Michael Kramer, and if you know me from the Discord groups that I'm in, you know how I feel about him. The next book that I'm planning on reading is The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. I'm loving reading the Cosmere. I'm loving that Brandon is 100% accepting the connections that we have in these stories. I'm loving that he's embracing all of these connections. So there are only two main entries in the Cosmere that I haven't read yet, and one of them is Emperor's Soul. The other I'm gonna talk about in a second. So I've been told that this is Brandon's best work, which, okay, I feel it's quite a bit hard for it to be Brandon's best work when we have Stormlight Archive, but it's said to be his best written work. So I'm excited to read this. It's very short, so I should be able to knock it down in a sitting or two. So that's my plan for Emperor's Soul. By this time we should be in October. I'm gonna start October with The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. I have heard a ton of good things about this book, and I've seen so many comparisons with some of the best works out there. So I'm super excited for this. There's of course a big fat asterisk here that I'm only gonna read it if I love Grace of Kings. If I end up hating it, I'm not gonna continue on, even though that would probably mean that Jimmy would probably Batista bomb me. The next one, I promise, is 100% not because of the show, but the next book that I've planned on reading is A Storm of Swords Part 2. Yes, that I'm planning on reading part 2 because I've already read part 1. Yes, I'm one of those heathens that stopped A Storm of Swords after finishing part 1. But in my defense, that was the time when I was moving places, I'm moving away from my country. So a bit of a hectic situation then, so I couldn't get enough time to finish the second part as well. So I'm gonna correct that mistake soon. I am planning on reading the second part in A Storm of Swords. I have read Fire and Blood, and because of the show I have become really hyped for the show. So I'm hoping to read this as soon as possible and continue on with my Song of Ice and Fire journey so that I can join all those lore videos. The next book that I plan on reading is The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. If you have seen my reactions on Discord, you know that Ship of Magic is my 4th favorite book of 2022, following Dark Forest, Death's End, and my current read, that is Count of Monte Cristo. So it's my 4th favorite book. I really enjoyed it, so I'm super excited for the next one. And the problem with here is that Robin Hobb I tend to read physically because the narrators for her books suck, and she writes, like, her pacing is really slow, so that ends up meaning that I take a lot longer to finish her books. So it would probably take me more than a month to read this Mad Ship, this about 1,000-page gigantic book, but that's my plan. I want to read this. I want to read the rest of the Realm of the Elderings as well. At this point we should be well in November, so my plan is to continue on with the Dandelion Dynasty and read The Veiled Throne by Ken Liu. The usual caveats apply, that is, if I don't end up liking Grace of Kings or Wall of Storms, I might end up not reading this. I might not be alive for that matter, because Jimmy and Kyle would have killed me by that point, but that's a problem for another day. The next book in my plans is Speaking Bones by Ken Liu. I know that Veiled Throne and Speaking Bones were supposed to be one book, so I intend on planning reading them as a single book as well, so I'm gonna read them back to back. It's probably not the best decision considering how thick these books are, and there's a serious chance of big books burn out here, but you know what, fuck it, you only live once. So I'm gonna read these two back to back. I hope I would be super excited to finish that series by that point, but yeah, so that's my plan. After all the thick books I just mentioned, it would be time for something light. The other entry of Cosmere that I haven't read, that I talked about previously, is Dawnshard. Yes, I have not read Dawnshard. I have read Rhythm of War, but I didn't read Dawnshard before it. But you know what, it's not my fault. It's Brandon's fault. He took forever to get the audiobook out. But now that it's out, I am super excited to read it, even though it's Michael Kramer and Kate Reading. I don't have a problem with Kate Reading. I do not like Michael Kramer though. But I'll still be reading it soon. I want to be done with Cosmere so that I can call myself the Cosmere Guru, and I can take part in all the conversations around investiture and connections and stuff like that. The next book that I'm planning on reading has a huge caveat, a huge asterisk on it, and that is that I'll probably not end up having enough time to fit this in. I read pretty slowly, so there's a huge chance that I just wouldn't have enough time to fit this in. So no worries, I'll just read it in December. There's no hard boundaries here, but yeah, the books that I'm planning on reading here is either Feast of Crows or Ship of Destiny. Depends on which book I am more hyped to continue for. Probably Ship of Destiny, because that would mean that I can close off the Life Ship Traders series and see all of those spoiler discussions on YouTube that I have added to my watch later playlist. So, but you know, I'm not sure, we'll see. So those are my plans for the next 3 months. Another book that I want to add here is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I'm not a huge Stephen King fan, but you probably all know this already, but I am very easy to hype. So if I end up seeing a whole bunch of love for this book, then I might end up throwing away some of my books out of the TBR and add that in and read that instead. So don't be surprised if that ends up happening. So those are my plans for the next 3 months. Will I follow these plans? I'm not sure. That remains to be seen. There's a huge chance that I end up sneaking in a Wheel of Time book, or add a Dresden reread for some book or something something, but at least those are my plans. Whether those plans are executed or not, that remains to be seen. Let me know what your plans are for the rest of the 3 months, for the next not rest of the 3 months, for the next 3 months, and let me note that down in the comments. And till then, bye.